Hi, I'm Jason Hommel, and I'm reading my book out of my book, The Copper Revolution. This is Chapter 5, Wikipedia Resources. I know people think it's poor form to research from an open source place like Wikipedia that anyone can edit. While I understand that Wikipedia's many editors have a bias in favor of mainstream medicine and against alternative health, that is also the bias of the larger overall society in which we live. Remember, 70% of people have taken at least one pharmaceutical in the last year. Wikipedia, though, he also has more complete research than is easily found elsewhere, and articles are often well sourced these days. There's an article at Wikipedia called Copper in Health. It says various factors influence copper absorption. For example, copper absorption is enhanced by ingestion of animal protein, citrate, and phosphate. Copper salts, including copper gluconate, copper acetate, or copper sulfate, are more easily absorbed than copper oxides. Elevated levels of dietary zinc, as well as cadmium, high intakes of phytate, and simple sugars, fructose and sucrose, inhibit dietary absorption of copper. And they have 6 links for those statements. Furthermore, low levels of dietary copper inhibit iron absorption, citation needed. How can low copper inhibit iron? Copper is needed to create ceruloplasmin, which transports both copper and iron. Side note, too little copper is bad for iron. Some copper is necessary for iron. Again, too much copper can block iron, but it appears that the mineral interaction effects are not either or, but rather are more likely to be shaped like bell curves. Again, we need some copper just not only to make ceruloplasmin, to transport iron, but we also need copper to actually turn iron into red blood cells. So Wiki implicitly confirms there is a lack of studies on copper between 500 milligrams and 10 milligrams, and inadvertently implies that toxic effects start above 500 milligrams for a 100 kilo man. Toxic is greater than 5 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. Gastrointestinal, that would be 5 milligrams per kilogram of a 100 kilo man, that's 500 milligrams. Gastrointestinal metallothionein induced possible differing effects of acute and chronic exposure. 100 micrograms per kilogram body weight, 10 milligrams for a 100 kilo man. Plateau of absorption maintained. Homeostatic mechanisms regulate absorption of copper. Even more interesting, they imply that deficiency starts at 850 micrograms for a 100 kilo man, which is very close to the 900 microgram RDA. Again, they're saying deficiency at 850 micrograms, but the RDA is 900 micrograms. That's incredible. Again, deficient 8.5 UG per kilogram body weight, negative copper balance. I note further that those levels would all change in the presence of copper depleting substances. So copper deficiency was seen in a woman who was taking 100 milligrams of zinc, even at 2 milligrams of copper, which means that 2 milligrams of copper can also be a deficiency level. There's a Wikipedia link on the subject of copper deficiency and on the subject of copper toxicity. Quote, the EPA lists no evidence for human cancer incidents connected with copper. That's important. There's a Wikipedia article on copper sulfate. There's a wiki article on copper enzymes. When I first started editing the Wikipedia article on copper enzymes, there were only 21. I started editing it just in part for this book. Now there are 32, so I added 11 of them. Now, one of the reasons we know what copper does in the body is by looking at copper enzymes. We know in part many of the things the enzymes do, and we know that the enzymes are generally more active, and sometimes there are more of the enzymes if there is enough copper to make them. Copper enzymes. Some of these copper enzymes are 2-furyl CoA dehydrogenase, amine oxidase, AOC2, AOC3, ATPase, bilirubin oxidase, catalase, catechol oxidase, ceruloplasmin, cytochrome C oxidase, diamine oxidase, dopamine beta hydroxylase, galactose oxidase, glutathione peroxidase, hephaestin hexose oxidase, indole 2,3 dioxygenase, L-ascorbate oxidase, lactase, lysyl oxidase, and well, there's the rest of this. Methine monoxygenase, multi-copper oxidase, nitrate reductase, NO-forming, nitrous oxide reductase. Oh, this is a tough one. Peptide, peptidyl glycine monoxygenase, polyphenol oxidase, quercetin dioxygenase, SOD1, SOD3, superoxide dismutase, tyrosinase. There's a Wikipedia article on copper proteins, and it has been estimated by some sources, I apologize, I forgot, that over half the proteins in the body contain copper, which is amazing. There is also a list of copper salts, and there's another category, copper complexes. All right, that's it for Chapter 5. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thanks. Bye-bye.